The World Bank Group, the Climate Change Knowledge Portal, gives us a whole other resource for looking at data sets. We're going to be looking at the probability that weather events are going to exceed the anticipated threshold. And I'll give you a little more detail in the resources. But my point here is just introducing you to the data set so you can go in and answer your own questions that you might have. We're looking at this catalog, and as you can see here, the spatially aggregated data. I'm just showing you this to you. It's a huge file, and I have the latest Mac OS and all that stuff, and it still took forever. So I'm just showing you, you can get the country level data and you could download it to your computer. I was interested in Panama because I'm thinking and working on a project in that area. You just have to answer these different questions, these different models. I just picked the CHASMA model. It's a climate model that from the Columbia, and I'm interested in the climatology, but you can see here you have time series. You can look at particular categories of cyclones. I just picked the TCTS. These were random picks because there's no real project, but I wanted to look at the annual exceedance probability to see how effective we are at looking forward and figuring out what the risk is going to be. And I wanted the future time period. You can do historical and future. That would weave together a great story. I went with mean. You could go with percentile, median. These are all different labels that you have access to. And then the SSP 245, what that is the shared socioeconomic pathway. They have ranges in low, middle, and high. And then again, the model label is going to be the CHAS. And then here we have the CSM2. So these are just model calculations that you, to be familiar with, you can look at the data dictionary. I'll give you some resources to look at. This is a huge API call. You can see on the left information pulled into the portal. I prefer raster file access. That's where the Python comes in, and that's where you get your net CDF file, which we're familiar with from the previous section. And here you just make similar questions. Very simple. You just pick that CHAS model that we picked. There's other models. Take a look, see what you like. Here you could see the category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then all of them. So it mirrors what we saw. We have the historical, or we have the forward thinking, and then here you have your mean, your median. You can look at other time frames, different percentiles. This really does mirror what you were looking at with the other files. There's the AEP, which is what we had last time, the TCTS that we walked through. And now it can just be pulled into your Colab notebook so that you can explore it there. Now, the data dictionary is very important. Any project you work on, you have to look in the data dictionary. This is where you're going to understand how they calculated the data and what these variables mean. You need to know what story you can tell based on the data you have. So at the very least, you need to be able to explore the data catalog. I'm just scrolling through it here for you so you can see how thorough it is. It's a really good knowledge portal. It's for development practitioners, policymakers, maybe not for developers, but it gives you that level of where you can begin your process of building out your data story. This is a very powerful data set, much deeper than we're looking at right here. You have general resources because if I'm going to talk about Panama, Pakistan, Portugal, I want to look at some of this background information. And it's great when you can have a validated instrument that pulls together a wide variety of information beyond what you may even want to know. But there's a lot of information there that you're able to use in any story that you're building. And to be honest with you, it also gives you some really good story ideas here. And this was just for Panama, but there's lots of other countries. You should familiarize yourself with the geography of Panama. We all know about the Panama Canal. So there's lots of things, risk, geographical risk, there's landslide, all kinds of things that we need to talk about if we're going to be bringing a story. And especially if we're looking at climate risk, if we're doing forward thinking, if we're trying to understand historically what is a certain region like? We need to take the time to do the research. It's not just about running a calculation, especially if you're presenting information in front of an audience. Or I work through a lot of these things in workshop environments to introduce the tools in a lot more detail. This is just really introducing me to it because a lot of these data sets I wasn't really aware of. And when I found them, I was like, oh, wow, I want to save these for this talk, or I want to save these for this workshop I'm giving because it's an area of interest, especially if you're looking at climate science and sustainability. These are really important tools to be able to bring on board. And here's our collab where I already have the file uploaded, which is great because now I can just copy the access into the data. I'll put this over in the code so you can just copy it over. But this is where all the data lives. This is how I pulled it. You want to be able to look at your variables because in an array, you have to know what you're looking at. It's not just enough to have data, but you can see the AP and the TCTS, the annual mean. You can see the vertical scale showing you the 30. If you look at it and you have to make a guess, like around Panama City, you're looking at 30%, approaching 40% exceedance of the probability of a weather event.